The earth groans, it shudders, its climates, once predictable, now lash out with fury. Glaciers melt, seas rise, storms rage, the delicate balance of nature disrupted. These are not mere warnings. They are the opening lines of a tragic narrative unfolding before our very eyes. We see it in the bleached coral reefs, gasping for life in warming oceans. We feel it in the scorching heat waves turning fertile lands into parched deserts. We hear it in the desperate cries of creatures, their habitats vanishing. Our planet, our home, is in distress. It's a distress signal we can no longer ignore. The evidence is irrefutable, etched in the rising tides, the melting ice caps, and the increasingly frequent extreme weather events. From the Amazon rainforest to the Arctic tundra, the impacts of climate change are stark and undeniable. The future of life on Earth, as we know it, hangs in the balance. The urgency of the situation demands our immediate attention. We must acknowledge the gravity of the crisis, understand its far-reaching consequences, and act decisively to mitigate its impact. The time for complacency is long gone, the time for action is now. We must come together as a global community, united in our determination to protect our planet for generations to come. The skies opened up, unleashing a torrent of rain unlike anything ever witnessed. Brazil, a land known for its vibrant ecosystems and abundant rainfall, found itself battling a deluge of epic proportions. Rivers overflowed, swallowing homes and businesses whole. Landslides ripped through hillsides, leaving scars of devastation in their wake. The relentless downpour transformed bustling cities into swirling pools of debris and despair. Families huddled together, seeking refuge on rooftops, their belongings swept away by the rising tide. The floodwaters carried with them not just material possessions, but also a sense of security, of normalcy, of hope. The cries of children echoed through the flooded streets, a haunting symphony of fear and uncertainty. The deluge in Brazil served as a stark reminder of the raw power of nature and the fragility of human life in the face of climate change. The immediate impact of the floods was devastating, but the long-term consequences are even more profound. The destruction of infrastructure, the loss of livelihoods, and the displacement of communities will continue to reverberate for years to come. The floods in Brazil are not an isolated incident. They are a harbinger of things to come, a stark warning of the increasing frequency and intensity of extreme weather events in a warming world. The earth shuddered, then yielded. Hillsides, once solid and reassuring, cascaded down in a torrent of mud and rock. Indonesia, a nation sculpted by powerful tectonic forces, experienced the devastating consequences of climate change in a horrifying new way. Landslides triggered by torrential rainfall ripped through villages, burying homes and families beneath tons of debris. The lush green landscape, once a source of life and sustenance, transformed into a graveyard of shattered dreams. The landslides in Indonesia were not merely geological events, they were human tragedies. Behind each collapsed home, each buried life, lies a story of loss, grief, and shattered futures. The cries of survivors searching for loved ones amid the rubble, the faces etched with despair and disbelief, serve as a powerful testament to the human cost of climate change. These are not mere statistics, they are real people, real lives forever altered by the changing climate. The scars left by the landslides run deep, not just on the landscape, but also on the hearts of those who survived. The trauma of loss, the uncertainty of the future, and the daunting task of rebuilding weigh heavily on the survivors. The landslides in Indonesia stand as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of human societies in the face of climate change, a call to action to address the root causes of these disasters and build a more resilient future. From the flooded streets of Brazil to the mud-caked villages of Indonesia, a symphony of sorrow echoes across the globe. The stories of loss, of displacement, of lives upended by climate change are not isolated incidents. They are part of a growing chorus of human suffering. Each story a poignant reminder of the interconnectedness of our world, of the shared vulnerability of all living beings in the face of a changing climate. The faces of those impacted by climate change tell a story more powerful than any scientific report. The farmer watching his crops wither under the relentless sun, The fishermen hauling in empty nets from depleted oceans, the families huddled in makeshift shelters after their homes are swept away by floods. Their stories a tapestry of resilience, of despair, of a desperate plea for action. These stories not mere anecdotes, they are the human face of climate change, a stark reminder that this is not just an environmental issue but a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. The impacts of climate change felt most acutely by the most vulnerable, those least equipped to adapt to the changing world. Their stories a call to action, a plea for empathy, a demand for justice. The Earth, our cradle of life, stands at a precipice. The choices we make today will determine the future of our planet, the fate of generations to come. Will we continue down the path of unchecked exploitation, fueling a cycle of environmental degradation and human suffering? Or will we choose a different path, one of sustainability, of compassion, of a harmonious relationship with nature? The future hangs in the balance, teetering between hope and despair. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the resources to avert the worst impacts of climate change. What we lack is the collective will, the sense of urgency, the understanding that our actions today will determine the world we leave behind for our children and grandchildren. The choice is ours. We can choose to be the generation that turned the tide, that healed the planet, that built a sustainable future for all. Or we can choose to be the generation that failed to act, that condemned future generations to a world of hardship and uncertainty. The time for debate is over, the time for action is now. The Earth is calling. It calls to us through the rustling leaves, the crashing waves, the gentle whispers of the wind. It calls to us through the stories of those impacted by climate change, through the scientific evidence that paints a stark picture of our planet's future. It calls to us to awaken from our slumber, to shed our apathy, to embrace our responsibility as stewards of this fragile planet. Each one of us has a role to play, a part in this grand symphony of change. We can make conscious choices in our daily lives, reducing our carbon footprint, supporting sustainable practices, and advocating for policies that protect our environment. We can use our voices to spread awareness, to inspire action, to build a global movement for change. Our collective consciousness is the most powerful tool we have in the fight against climate change. When we come together, united by a shared purpose, we can overcome any challenge. Let us answer the Earth's call with courage, with conviction, with a commitment to create a better future for all. Let us be the generation that chooses hope over despair, action over apathy, a future where humanity and nature thrive in harmony.